Uncluttered and Unfiltered is brought to you in part by our latest obsession, pancakes. Pancakes are the revolutionary cold pack that stick to you so you can stick to your routine. Whether you're pounding the pavement as a runner like me or you're tackling the clutter as a professional organizer like Christine, Pancakes has got you covered. Pancakes comes in 3 sizes and can be used again and again. We both keep them in our freezers, and when we feel an ache or a pain, you just stick them on your body. You can do it 100 times. It's all the benefits of using a cold pack, but no downtime. Find Pancakes at pain-cakes.com or at thousands of retailers nationwide.
Welcome to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast urging you to let it go and don't look back. With nationally acclaimed professional organizer Christine Stone and self-proclaimed hot damn mess radio and TV personality Eden Kendall.
Welcome, everybody, to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast for women over 50 with Eden and Christine. And we've had some time since we watched a documentary that we had talked about being excited to see. So even though it's now a few weeks since it's originally been airing, we're going to talk about BratS, which is about the Brat Pack, and we'll explain more of that in just a few. But before we do that, first of all, did you have a lovely weekend?
I had a lovely week. I was out of town helping my older daughter unpack. She moved into a new house. So I did the organizer / grandma / mom for a week and helped them unpack and get organized in their new house, and saw my cute little grandson. And so it's a great week.
Now, let me ask you this. Did you help them also to pack a few weeks before that? So they packed. Did they pack in a way that you were okay with?
Yes,
because
I actually,
okay, good. Did you give them advice on how to pack?
I did give advice on how to pack things up. And I was very pleasantly surprised how she started the process in her new house. So
okay,
I was there really just to kind of do little touch-ups and get the items that she wouldn't know to pick out, and use my organizing expertise to get her organized.
Well, it's not on there yet, but if you follow Christine on her business Instagram, which is neatly designed, you'll see a lot of it, all of it, eventually all of it, but,
yes,
but lots of stuff like that. So then you could play the organizing granny one day maybe and go to someone's house and help them unpack one day. So let's I know what I want to talk about too, sunshine guilt, because you and I talked about how this weekend here in town was meant to be rainy according to all forecasts. And anyone you asked, everywhere you looked, it was just big blobs of yellow, orange, and red.
Yes.
And yet we had so much sun. And so it brings something called and I read an article about this. It's called sunshine guilt. And that's where you feel like if you don't go out and appreciate the outdoors on a pleasant day, then you're a loser, or
I feel that.
So I had it happen yesterday, and I actually followed up on it and did go for a walk on the beach and ended up having a really nice time. So I'm glad I did it. But it's when you have that long to-do list, things you'd be just as happy if you stayed in all day and got them done, relaxed, watched some Netflix.
I suffer from sunshine guilt, and it hasn't rained in where we live over a month.
So
imagine the guilt I've been having.
Right.
Because you never feel bad if you're sitting home watching TV or on your iPad or whatever you do if it's pouring down rain outside.
In fact, you're like, this was meant for me. This is a sign.
Right. But when it's sunny out and it's noon on a Saturday, you're like,
correct,
I should be outside. Now, the only way I don't feel guilty is Florida in the summer, because it's 95 degrees, humid, hot, and that's how I rationalize it.
Yes.
Oh, I too hot out there. It's too hot.
Right.
My hair will frizz. I'm going to sweat to death, whatever it may be.
Just the fact that you feel you have to rationalize it is sunshine guilt.
I do.
And we've all had it.
Yeah.
And so don't fall victim to that.
Well, but I wouldn't have been able to watch the BratS documentary had I not had sunshine guilt sitting inside watching.
Right, because if you'd gone outside, you'd have missed it.
It's
exactly.
Yeah.
The other thing we wanted to address before we get into BratS is I went through this phase, this like
month-long determined phase where I was so overdue to have my roots touched up. Now, listen, I know that this is not that exciting to anybody.
It is to me.
Well, thank you for saying that. I feel like women go through this. I don't know what it was, this feeling of rebellion where I was like, I'm growing out my gray. And I went down, if you Google even one thing or say it near your phone, get ready because your feed on any social media is going to be all the Silver Sisters, all the, Raven Gray sites, all the accounts that want to show you how life is so much better when you're gray. Well, they say.
Oh, okay.
So they say. And I know we have some of you guys listening that have told us on our Facebook page that you love it and you're so glad you did it. I couldn't go through with it. I actually have an appointment. I used the touch-up spray today, but I actually have an appointment to get the roots done finally after a few months. It's been months.
Wow. If I waited a few months, my gray would be like to hear
to your ears.
My roots grow out. So
mine are too, like if you were to go straight up from where the center of my eyebrows are, like that far out. And you can see this on some of our videos if you go to our Patreon page. We have especially one of them with makeup consultant Carrie Wilson, where I bend towards the camera to show it off. I let it go for a while. I'm not saying never, but it's not time. It came to me in a dream, actually. I had a dream, and then I thought, this is going to be a way I can test my husband, who has from the beginning said, and I think it's because he's silver that he did not feel he had a leg to stand on. I think he from the beginning was like, whatever you say, you're beautiful. I don't care. So I'm like, let me test what he really thinks. And so I texted him. I said, I dreamt last night that I decided to wait until I'm 60. I'll be 58. And he said, he did a love. And I'm like, oh, you love that? And he's like, I love that. And I'm like, okay, you secretly did not want me to do this. I'm just going to go ahead and use that as my reason for chickening out. So I'm going to wait a little longer on that for those who are following along.
And this may not be a popular opinion, but I think as a man, and I'm not a man, so I'm not going to speak for Steve, but really it makes a man, I think, can possibly make a man feel older if his wife is totally gray. Some men, that doesn't bother them. Some men are like, it's all right if I'm gray because I'm a man, and men always look better with gray hair. I don't care what anyone says.
I agree with you.
They look gorgeous with gray hair. I mean, listen, I know a few stunningly beautiful women that have full gray hair, but to me, there's a lot, like my hair is so coarse and curly and that when my gray comes in, it looks like a wire brush that you clean your oven with. I mean, it's bad. So I just think it depends on your hair type. And I do think when you've been married a long time, that they have some opinion.
You can, I think you could take it into consideration. Yes, I do. Because if he grew a full beard and I hated it, I would want him to at least consider that.
My husband cut his own hair while I was out of town.
How did that go?
Okay. Let's just explain. He looks like a 90s rapper. Short on the sides, puffy on the top. Why did he do that? Because he's a man and he has a routine, and his hairdresser has been ill for 8 weeks now, and he couldn't take it anymore. And the thought of him going to another hairdresser, he feels like that's cheating. So he's waiting till he gets better. And so he decided to take this on himself. If it didn't look so hilariously funny, I would have been upset, but it is the funniest haircut I've ever seen.
Has he done anything towards fixing it, or is he just he's just going to live his life?
A lot of golf hats because he plays golf. That's
my gosh.
He's hoping any day now, the guy who cuts his hair is going to text him and say, I'm back. This is a problem.
I feel like that's a whole other topic, the cheating on your hairstylist, because my hairstylist is a very close friend, one of my best friends. And also one of my best friends growing up is also a hairstylist, and they've never met each other. But when I go visit one, she's like, hey, when you're coming, I'll do your roots. And then I have to say to my other one, do you mind if she does? No, girl, let her do your roots. It's just funny because you do feel, but you don't typically think that a man is going to recognize that that's a relationship that could be.
Uncluttered and Unfiltered is brought to you in part by Hearts for Minds. June is Men's Health Month, and mental health is a vital piece of the well-being puzzle. Guys often face pressure to bottle up their emotions, but that can take a toll. Hearts for Minds wants to change that conversation. 1 in 4 adults, and that includes men, experience a mental health condition. Hearts for Minds helps people impacted by mental illness get the help they need. Visit heartsforminds.org to learn how you can prioritize your mental health or help the men in your life do the same. Take a breath. Take control. Hearts for Minds is here for you.
He's been going to him for 28 years.
Wow.
Time. So he definitely feels major guilt going to somebody else.
Great.
He doesn't feel guilty cutting his own hair.
That is that is a twisted line of thinking.
Yeah.
That
So,
is funny.
It's my world.
So you said he looks like a night. He didn't look like one of the Brat Pack, did he?
No.
Okay, that's
No.
okay.
I mean, definitely not like the Brat Pack.
All right, that brings us to the documentary called BratS.
Yes.
Now, the Brat Pack is defined as, well, there are a lot of definitions, and that's part of what plays into this documentary. But the Brat Pack is typically these people that were in these movies like St. Elmo's Fire, The Breakfast Club. What else? About Last Night. Would you call Pretty in Pink? 16 Candles?
16 Candles.
Okay.
Yeah. All of those John Hughes movies. Or
like those.
John Hughes
So
in the 80s.
So and Brat Pack, and I felt like they didn't get to this quick enough in the documentary, is a play on Rat Pack, which is that whole Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., that whole, those Vegas-y, performers, Dean Martin. Yeah. So Rat Pack was really an ingenious way to say it. And it comes from an article in 1985. David Blum wrote that New York Magazine article. You can talk a little bit more about that, but it was about Emilio Estevez and who else?
It was about Emilio Estevez.
Okay.
Only.
Right.
And then all his friends came to the dinner.
Right. Yes, that's right.
One. And so that's when he started turning the article around without letting Emilio Estevez know what he was going to write.
Right. Because they were getting great treatment.
Right.
They were partying it up.
Or like dropping over Rob Lowe. I mean,
okay.
I see that.
So yeah, still to this day. So Andrew McCarthy, who was in Pretty in Pink and in St. Elmo's Fire, he took very personally that label Brat Pack.
Yes.
And he decided after all these many years that he wanted to put together a documentary, go back and reconnect with all of the people that were supposedly in or adjacent to the Brat Pack to find out how it affected them in their lives, because he felt it was very detrimental to his life and a very, very big stigma.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes and he talks to, almost everybody except Molly Ringwald and Judd
Nelson.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to start off by saying I don't get why they wouldn't even appear for 5 seconds. Or, a minute. I mean, they're in their 50s, late 50s, early 60s now. So I didn't get that because like Demi Moore came off so amazing.
Yeah.
And so honest about her drinking and how, that's what I thought. Okay. That's what I thought it was going to be about, the behind the scenes of what was going on during the shooting of these movies and in their personal lives a little bit.
Yeah, maybe like some romances happening between the actors.
Right. It was nothing like that. Absolutely. So I was very disappointed.
Super disappointed. I was bored, actually. Yeah, I was hoping something was going to happen.
Too long. Okay, in my opinion, way too long. And I know you and I differ on this. I personally did not see Andrew McCarthy as a Brat Packer. So that was me. I have who I thought, which was Molly Ringwald, Judd Nelson, Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, Rob Lowe, and Ali Sheedy, partially because she was in all those movies, The Breakfast Club. But I did not. You did. I did not. And I know a lot of other people did. I think just where I was at in my life in 85. I wasn't a huge Andrew McCarthy fan, so maybe in my mind I didn't put him in as Brat Pack. So I also think, like the author of that article, it really, if you're comparing the Rat Pack and the Brat, you should be honored. Everyone wanted to be in the Brat Pack.
Yes.
Everybody wanted to be in the Brat Pack. If you were in the Brat Pack, you're cool, you're good looking.
Or at least that's what we thought. Then they talked to some of the actors who were like, no, I didn't want to be in it. I was glad I wasn't in it. But you're right. From the outside looking in, it seemed like a coveted thing because the majority of people who heard that name never read the article that accompanied it.
Ever.
We just knew of it. People magazine would say the Brat Pack, and we didn't know why they said that. To the point where Emilio Estevez made a conscious decision and he said, I'm just not going to be in any more movies with these guys so that I don't get lumped in with them. And that affected directly Andrew McCarthy because they were supposed to do a movie together that was supposed to be a very, very good and big movie, great opportunity. So he got dusted on that job. But what I felt like watching this was it was a big wine fest, for one thing. I felt like it was just an exercise in him kind of exercising his demons on screen. And I didn't really feel, with the exception of maybe Ali Sheedy, and I don't even know if she was just kind of going along with it because she had her own demons going on. But I didn't think anybody really agreed with him and that they were just kind of like, hey, let's reconnect, whatever. Oh, dude, man, you took that hard. Because they're sitting like, look, Demi Moore is sitting in her unbelievable home, with, trees growing in the living room and all this, koi ponds and just gorgeous success and talking to him about, hey, you got to let it go. And same with Emilio Estevez, very, very successful. Rob Lowe, obviously.
Yeah.
Difficult to even pin him down. They said that it was like 3 times before they were able to actually get him to commit and make time.
But he did.
And he was
admirable.
Delightful.
Yeah.
He was so fun and cute.
And who had a sex tape come out in 1988.
He overcame that.
And has such a positive attitude and is really turned everything around in his life. He's very successful. I found him to be a little whiny myself. I think there are, in a lot of the ones that took it really hard, like Emilio Estevez's dad. I mean, first of all, he looked like his twin.
He looked Martin Sheen.
Oh my God, he looked like his twin.
Yeah.
I think there's some proving to your dad that you're better, that you're a serious actor. So I believe a lot of this, with the ones who took it bad, had other really things they were dealing with.
Okay, but they took it bad, but they used it as fighting words.
Yeah.
Like Emilio Estevez says, it made me feel like they thought we were lightweights. So what does that make him do? It makes him try harder. Doesn't make him be a recluse and lick his wounds and feel pooped on. Instead, he feels empowered and he's going to go further and go harder and lean more into that's not me, versus what Andrew McCarthy took from it, which is, well, we're done here. It's all over now.
But you know what I saw? So they didn't even mention that Emilio Estevez and Demi Moore were engaged during St. Elmo's fire. To me, that's fascinating.
Yeah, they didn't cover anything like that.
And by the way, that would have messed with your mind a little bit because that engagement broke off, I think, a few months later or whatever. So that would mess with your mind, too, that you're filming a movie together, you're engaged. Those are the things people want to hear about all these years later. I just thought it was all about why Andrew McCarthy.
Yes, 100%. Oh, tell everybody what bothered you the most.
Okay. What bothered me the most, and this is how Eden and I, once again, are very different. When they went to Ali Sheedy's, I think it was a New York apartment. So she had to have known they were coming. This
of course.
Was like, knock, knock, open the door. Oh my God, it's Andrew.
Come on in, set up your lights.
They knew.
Right.
The whole entire time they were filming, there was this set of drawers and the drawers were all open. Like no one closed those drawers. And there was like a dead plant. I just couldn't focus on anything else. I almost felt like, does this mean times are tough? Does this mean you've thrown in the towel? Does this mean you've given up acting? What does this mean? I wanted to know. Or does it mean you need me to come help you a little bit?
Probably she could use a little help.
Do you know what I mean?
Probably a little bit of everything. As you like to say, there's always something deeper.
Yeah. That's exactly right. So I couldn't stop looking at those open drawers, and all three of them, every single one of them. I love her. I think she's an amazing, amazing actress, but that just amazed me. I just couldn't figure that one out.
So is there anything else we want to say about this documentary before we get into kind of one of the reasons we really wanted to talk about it, which is perceptions? Because to me, I know that we have a lot more to say about it, but to me, like, the thing was that this whole Brat Pack being a life-ruining thing was a perception that Andrew McCarthy had. He
Yes.
perceived that to be the case, never let go of it,
Never.
didn't have a podcast to tell him to let it go and don't look back.
Right.
So he just kept it under his craw
Yes.
all these many years. And then he meets up with all these other people who have moved on with their lives,
And really moved on.
really moved on. And he even talks with the author of that article who's like, hey,
Sorry.
I was 29. I was trying to be funny. It was a great article.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ritz, and I like the name Brat Pack.
I'm
good for him.
proud of him, proud of myself for inventing it. It was a great
Yeah.
great headline.
Yeah.
So, well, what other thoughts do you have before, because I don't want to rush through it.
Listen,
Yes.
I mean, they kept showing him the whole time, because you have to admit, in Breakfast Club and in St. Elmo's Fire, playing two totally different roles, he is a great.
Yeah, one he's just like, "Ugh," and the other one he's like uptight.
Yeah.
And
One he's like the conservative political
Sure.
guy, and the other he's like stoner high school guy who's always in trouble. But I couldn't believe that all they did at the very end was show him finally getting back to him in a phone call, like he's some.
but not really.
But
Yeah, it's probably fake. I'm sure.
I don't know if it was real.
I don't think it was.
And they show him at the end of Breakfast Club. I mean, clever, yes, I will give him that. But I don't know. I think Molly Ringwald and Judd Nelson, I'm not in their shoes and I don't know anything about their private life or anything. I just think you're not letting it go. If you can't even spend 5 minutes on a documentary going, like Demi Moore, I never saw.
And I think the opposite. I think they're just like, "Ugh, come on, dude, really?"
But it is
Because
fascinating
it's
to me.
But if they were to, what if when they reached out, if they would have said, we want to talk about how impactful these movies were, we want to talk about
Well, I thought that's
how
what it was going to be.
right. So I feel like maybe they would have said yes, but when they realized it was about a bunch of complaining,
Yeah.
and you never know what clip they're going to use of you. So maybe they were like, listen, I don't want to be a part of this. It sounds like a big wine fest. Who knows what you're going to use from me?
Right.
Good luck. I choose to move forward. Versus Judd, who just, I don't think ever really did get back to him. I don't think that phone call was really him. I just think it was a clever little fun way to be like,
Well,
hey.
do you think this ruined, though, any future real Brat Pack 1 reunions to really knowing like what we thought it was going to be?
Yes, I think it's ruined.
Yeah, me too.
I think what I would love to see is a John Hughes documentary, those movies, more about the movies, more about the behind the scenes.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, but again, he perceived things. Here you have all of these people. We as the public perceive them as being all buddies and hanging out together all the time when they never did. And he carried for all these years this feeling that the world, it ruined him, it ruined his career. He clearly had a lot of issues. And good for him for trying to follow whatever path it is for him to resolve them. But yeah, it's a prime example of not letting things go that you perceive to be a bigger deal than they really are to the rest of the world.
In 80s was a different time. There was a lot of drugs and alcohol going on during their youth. In 85, I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Lots of drugs and alcohol. And I think that from my perspective of what I think, that played a big role in them almost ruining some of their careers, was the drugs and the alcohol. So, I think they didn't mention a lot of that. I mean, Andrew McCarthy did say he was drinking a lot.
Mhm.
Demi Moore said she had a drinking problem. But I just think that they all were hurting a lot. And that really is the root of a lot of, I think, the demise, or them feeling they don't want to remember that part of their life.
I read John Cryer's book. Did you ever read? He has a book, and I feel like it was him that said that. I think he had a little thing with Demi Moore at one point, and she was just like, okay, we're done. Like, it was just for a non-set romance or whatever, and he was like devastated, I think.
Right.
Over on our Ladies Only Facebook page, we asked you guys, what is something that you perceive to be this big deal? You magnified it in your mind over all these years, so kind of the way that happened with Andrew McCarthy, the way that he thought that everybody felt the same way he felt about this, that it was as devastating as for them as it was for him. What are some perceptions that, when you look back, you're like, boy, I did not comprehend that in the way that it really happened? Or, whether it's, and let me give you an example of that. Like, I really used to feel like anything my family did, whether that's my parents, my sister, my kids, was a reflection on me, that anything someone else did, it was a reflection on me instead of it just being something about them. So that to me is an example. We asked you guys, like I said, on our Ladies Only page on Facebook, Britta said, that perception that you're irreplaceable at your job.
Yeah. I never feel that. I mean, I think everybody, unfortunately, is replaceable when it comes to work.
And I think that
about the almighty.
But there's that perception in your mind. You're the integral piece.
No.
And that's never, Pat says, holding on to the idea that your home needs to look perfect to have people over. You couldn't even let them set foot.
Okay. And I'm going to talk about that for a minute because I see that a lot. And I'm going to tell you that is a perception that is not true, because you think everybody, I always say this, if I had $1 for every time someone said, hold on to your hat, this is something you've never seen before. I don't know how it got, I would be a multi-millionaire. I go in expecting this like horrible, and it's like not bad at all. And so being organized is not about perfection. Your home isn't about perfection. It's about living in a peaceful, comfortable environment. And so I always tell people, ease up on yourself. You're really, really thinking something others are not thinking. And you're not letting people in your house or entertaining or doing anything because you feel that way.
Yeah. I mean, I have neighbors that will be outside and it might drizzle a little. They're like, we can go in my house. And I'm always thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, you could come in my house. But what if you open a drawer and I put away a spoon that didn't get all the way clean because I just grabbed everything out of the dishwasher, and you open a drawer and there's a spot on a spoon?
Another perception, because that's not true and it'll never happen. No one ever is going to open a cabinet or a drawer and say, what a pig, or, oh my God, her glasses had spots on. If you're having a party or people are having fun, they're there to get away from their problems and to get away from anything serious. And they just want to have a good time, especially at our age. I mean, I don't care what anyone says.
If there's a dog hair on a towel,
I could care less, honestly. I mean, I want to go and have fun and have a drink with you and relax and laugh and talk funny things. I don't care what someone's drawer looks like. And people think that about me because I'm an organizer. But when I'm off, I'm off. So
I love that. I love that. I want everybody to just marinate in that for just a minute, because that's really important. That's really important.
It really is.
Leslie said, she has a list. She said, I perceive that I must go along and be a good doormat, and that caused me to eat my emotions. So perception really can cause so many different things. She has some other things too. Christine said, not this Christine, another Christine, grew up believing that you had to be thin to be accepted. Perception. It's not reality.
Well, and these younger people who all are about social media, that social media is perception. I mean,
it all is. That's all it is.
That's all it is. It's
a narrative that is controlled by what we want.
A certain haircut. I have to be thin. I mean, how do you think plastic surgery came along? Because you think if I have a new nose, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against any plastic surgery, but I mean, for me, perception, I immediately told you I thought about Sorority Rush. That's the first thing I think about when I think of youthful thoughts of my youth and perception. You wanted to be in a sorority, and the sorority that you wanted so bad. And then you go talk to these girls for 3 days, know nothing about them. They knew nothing about you. So they're really going on your looks. And then they decide, okay, do we want her or not want her? And if we don't want her, she gets her second choice, not her first choice. I mean, just think about this as you're even talking about it. I mean, I was in a sorority. I loved being in a sorority. It was great. But now that I'm 61, the whole thing, to me, the amount of sadness or energy or anything that you put into that at the time just seems so ridiculous now. I mean, now at this age.
Sure.
So that's the first thing I thought about was going through sorority rush.
Yeah.
I mean, you're already a freshman. You're already in a new environment. You already feel insecure. You don't have friends. So to throw that on top, I just think, wow. I mean, and now you're throwing social media into it with these younger people. I think that's a rough thing.
It's a rough road.
Yeah.
And then you also you throw into that your perception of how did you do. So you had a sit down with maybe one of the sorority sisters, and this could be a job interview, this could be dinner with the parents of a new person you're dating, whatever. And then you rethink everything you said, and in your mind, you're magnifying every word that came out of your mouth to the point where they still remember what you said. I had somebody apologize to me 35, 40 years later for something they said to me when we were kids because it bothered them all these many years. I didn't remember it.
Yeah. That's the thing about perception, though. It's the things you remember, other people don't. And I think nowadays in the busy world that we live in, people don't think about anything 5 minutes after it happens. People think this is going to ruin me. This is terrible, whatever. And then 5 minutes later, they're on to the next, big thing. You really have to feel good about yourself, I think, and not care what other people think because they really don't care. I mean, and it's you that cares. And that's where I love being in my 60s because you don't care.
You learn that the weight, there's not as much weight on every moment like you used to think there was. If you have a conversation with someone and you're going back over it, like, for example, you wrote an article and you called somebody the Brat Pack. And if anything, I would think you would keep that guy up at night because he wrote it.
Right.
I mean, that would be more me. I'd be the one who'd feel bad if I said it versus the one receiving it.
That's I love that he didn't care.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he was in his 20s or 29 or 30, whatever. He's like, I had to write an article for New York Magazine or whatever. I mean, sorry. That's what it was back then. And,
Because I will tell you that when I think to be more, I don't immediately think Brat Pack. I think of her other work that she's done, the mom that she is. I think about the fact that she was married to Bruce Willis and Ashton Kutcher, and she's got these kids. And I think about so much of her life. And when I think about Emilio Estevez, same thing. When I think about Rob Lowe, I'm thinking about Parks and Rec and how
system.
Yes, and how delightful he is. Just when he comes on the screen, it lights up. Yeah. And when I think about and Molly Ringwald, what was she just in that she was unbelievable in? She was unbelievable. She was the mom. Yeah. Was she in the Dahmer thing? What was she in? Oh my God, she was so.
She was amazing. I think it was the Dahmer thing.
I can't remember for sure, but what I'm saying is. That's his perception that that's all anybody thinks about. Because if he had done several other things since then,
right?
Even if he had
some things lately, I mean,
well, I'm happy for him.
Well, I told you I've never been a big Andrew McCarthy fan, so I really was under the impression that this was about the Brat Pack, not about his anxiety for 30-something years. Right. Being labeled that. I really didn't. I was so excited for this documentary. I can't even tell you. And so.
Same. You saw it the day it came out. No, that was a big womp womp. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Well, everybody, we're so glad that you're here with us. We do have that ladies only page on Facebook. That's where you do have to ask to join. It's called Uncluttered and Unfiltered Ladies Only. We also have all the other social media. We also now have what's called a Patreon page, which for $5 a month, you get some bonus material. And there are other surprises and things that are going to be coming up along the way with that. More than anything, that is for a few reasons. One, because there are some kind of more personal things we're going to share on there that we want to just know that you're really all in.
Yeah.
We just don't want everybody to see. But the other thing, to be perfectly candid, is we're trying to cover some costs of putting on a podcast for you every week. And, that's just something people who do podcasts are able to provide. And so if you're moved to want to, for $5 a month, be a part of supporting us, you can cancel it at any time. You get to see, like, for example, this that you're hearing right now, you would actually see the video and there'd be no commercials. And, that's how that would work. So we would love it if you wanted to join us. But more than anything, the best thing we can ask for you is to tell one friend. Just one friend about Uncluttered and Unfiltered, and keep us up to date on what's going on in your life, because we love hearing from you.
I love hearing everything everybody says. It just makes my day. It really does.
Yeah, because we're all over the place. I mean, we're in other countries. We're around the country. So it's fantastic. But I think this is going to be the easiest close we've ever done, where we talk about letting it go. So with those perceptions, those things that have been haunting you for years and years that really never mattered to begin with, you can let it go.
And don't look back.